Greetings, this is Paul the Poke from paulthepoke.com. We got an update. After I posted last evening on This Week in Prophecy, we had a pretty significant event up in the northern part of Israel. Tragedy in Majdal Shams. And while we're at it, let's just take a look at Lebanon and prophecy. And there are a few of them. Scripture references out of Obadiah 1, verse 20, part A, the exiles of this host of the people of Israel shall possess the land of the Canaanites as far as Zarephath. And we're going to focus on Zarephath here in a little bit, but we're going to recap the events of what happened yesterday, last evening. It's from the IDF, from the analysis of the IDF's operational systems. The rocket launch at the center of Majdal Shams was carried out from an area located north of the village of Cheba, or Chaba'ah, I would guess maybe that's how they say that, in southern Lebanon. According to reliable intelligence information in the possession of the IDF, Hezbollah is responsible. Here we go. Here's the Lebanese-Israeli border. Ballistics indicated that that's where this came from. Also today, they've got pieces of the rocket, and it's an Iranian-made rocket that Hezbollah has used in the past. So they've shown pictures of that. There's plenty of that on the internet. I'm not going to put that out there today. But essentially, Hezbollah hit a playground in Majdal Shams, Israel, with a missile. And we're going to go to this link right here, rocket attack in Majdal Shams. A Druze town in the Golan mourns after devastating rocket attack. Discover the resilience of this community amid tragedy and conflict. We'll just do this like a little 30-second video showing this playground with a soccer field. That's what got hit. And it's a small town. And I think there are at least 12 dead and are injured. Kids' bikes.
Some of them are burned, and also the safe room here that has shrapnel.
Didn't even have a chance to get to the bomb shelter. So a little bit there. Oh, let's hit stark landscape. Overlooks the Sea of Galilee to the southwest. To the northwest is Lebanon. It is from Lebanon that a rocket was fired on July 27 that struck a soccer field in the center of a large Druze town of Majdal Shams. And these folks, the Druze, it's an ethnic group, pretty much have spoken out. They are historically very loyal to the nation of Israel. And a leading cleric said this has crossed all red lines. So, typically, it says they've been outside the conflicts in the region. Does not mean that they're in tune with it. Druze towns remained in the Golan after 1967, while most of the other Syrian residents fled, and they went back to Syria. So, Quneitra is another. We've talked about Quneitra in the past. That's on the Syrian side of the Golan. The Druze in the Golan, unlike the Druze and the rest of Israel, were not called up for military service. It took time to get them to accept Israeli citizenship after the Golan was annexed by Israel. Most of the international community views the Golan as occupied by Israel as part of Syria. So it's the sense that the Golan might be returned to Syria one day, led by many Druze to hedge on what might come next. And that's where this gets interesting from a prophetic standpoint, because some people, we'll jump up here to this map. Like here is the Golan area right here that they say has been illegally annexed by Israel, but is accepted as part of Israel. And when we start looking at Scripture, you can make an argument that the same thing could potentially happen in this southern part of Lebanon when you look what the prophet Obadiah has to say. We're going to get to that. Now, with that, of course, Israel is promising to respond. They are currently in meetings. Nothing has happened as of yet. And we got the rest of the world posturing, saying, hey, let's not escalate. BRICS news just in. Iran issues warning to Israel any infringement or aggression by the Zionist regime against the national sovereignty of Lebanon will be met with a decisive and united response across the entire resistance axis. I repeat, a decisive and united response. Make no mistake. And that's coming out of Iran. And again, Hezbollah is an Iranian proxy, just like Hamas, just like the Houthis. So Iran's got their fingerprints and money all over this thing. So let's just be clear about that. And then this guy, he'd been quiet for a while. And just about the time I was getting ready to post this comes flashing across the screen. Recep Erdogan, president of Turkey, threatens to invade Israel. All right. Well, we know you're going to do that at some point. You're going to join Russia and Iran. So we know that's coming. The question is when, not if. But to quote Erdogan, we must be strong so that Israel cannot do such things to the Palestinians. As we did in Karabakh in Libya, we can do the same with them. There's nothing left to do. We must be strong. Let's see if we get some audio from the man.
Bizim ithalat ihracatımız
I
neydi?
don't know that I'm hearing anything.
Nereye geldi?
You guys might be able to hear it.
Sevgili kardeşlerim,
like any of us understand.
bunların hiçbiri bizi aldatmasın.
But I digress. If you guys want to listen to that on your own, please feel free to. So let's get to the prophetic piece of this. Zarephath is located on the coast, the Mediterranean coast of modern-day Lebanon, about 13 miles north of Tyre, ancient Tyre. And this little river is important, the Litani River. And I wouldn't have thought much of anything about this little river until I had an exchange. I was hoping to get my friend Checkmate. It's been a while since we've been on together. But we were messaging back and forth, and he brought several things to my attention. And I thought, holy cow, I'll be darned if this doesn't line up potentially with some prophecy. So we're going to take a look at where what the Bible has to say about Zarephath, Sidonian town in which Elijah was entertained by a widow after he left the brook Cherith. Obadiah refers to it as a Canaanite town. Appears in the Greek form Sarepta in Luke 4:26, and is said to be in the land of Sidon. So keep in mind, Sidon is north of Tyre. I think I've seen where it's about 8 miles from Sidon. So it's really about halfway in between these two places. So you start looking at the biblical landmarks of where this is located, and then you have this river, the Litani River. And then you read the reference out of Obadiah. And the context is for the day of the Lord is near for all the nations, which we clearly haven't seen that yet. So this is future. As you have done, it will be done to you. Your recompense will return upon your own head. So, well, that's great. So the whole world's got it coming. And especially as it relates to his holy mountain, that would be Jerusalem, so all the nations will drink continually. So however you treated Israel is how you will be treated, is pretty much what's going down as far as God is explaining this. And then we're going to get down to specifically, and the exiles of this host of the Israelites will possess the land of the Canaanites as far as Zarephath. Okay? And the exiles from Jerusalem who are in Sepharad will possess the cities of the Negev. And that's in the south of Israel. So we're going to focus on the first half of this. The Canaanites as far as Zarephath. So, that's what this is talking about right here. And that's north of Tyre. So we get a big picture here. maybe it's just referring to the coastline, but if you're going to create any kind of buffer from Hezbollah and the missiles, you're going to need to create a land buffer to keep those things from raining down, or to give you more time, more response time from missiles coming in from the north. And it does say, we just read that, whoops, my bad, in 20, and the exiles of this host of the Israelites will possess the land of the Canaanites as far as Zarephath. So at some point, Israel's going to possess this. Now, the context is leading up to the day of the Lord. All right. So is that this area here, or does it talk about up here to the river in this area? In any rate, it's definitely the coastland, and it would stand to reason, because here's Israel. Just take this from here or from here, kind of like they did with Golan from Syria. Are we gonna see that happen? At some point it's going to happen. The question is this event, is this going to be the flashpoint that creates such an event? I don't know the answer to that, but and then Checkmate made this comment to me. Well, yeah, that's been this area has been discussed and has been understood since 2006, and that's UN Resolution 1701. And I'm just going to summarize this. This resolution calls for the full cessation of hostilities, the deployment of Lebanese forces to southern Lebanon, parallel withdrawal of Israeli forces behind the Blue Line, strengthening the UN force to facilitate the entry of Lebanese forces in the region, and establishment of a demilitarized zone between the Blue Line and the Litani River. Well, that's never happened, because here's the Litani River here in the black, and the Blue Line is the border between Lebanon and Israel. And Hezbollah was supposed to be out of there. Well, they're not. Lebanon never stepped in. Lebanon has gotten progressively weaker as a country, and there's just a big vacuum of leadership. They haven't been able to enforce this, and Lord knows the United Nations hasn't been able to enforce this buffer zone. And so I'm just thinking out loud, will we see a situation where Israel steps in and they will control this region up to the Litani River? And that would pretty much align with what we see in Obadiah 1, verse 20. Again, speculation, thinking out loud, do your own homework, come to your own conclusions. But I do know what the Bible says, what the prophet Obadiah says. There will come a time when the people of Israel will control this land in the future. It says what it says. We'll take a look at this. Here's another map. I thought this was a better map because it specifically, and this is the Litani River. It's the longest river in Lebanon. Comes down from north to south in the valley, and then makes a little turn here, heads toward the coast, heads west toward the coast, toward the Mediterranean. And so, in Zarephath is essentially right up here. Sidon's right up here. So it could be the river itself, or it could, run again into this area. I think the UN map, this compliments of Wikipedia, does a better job of it. Is this the area we're talking about? Or again, is it just the coastlands? But the idea from the United Nations, they had talked about this back in 2006. And for those of you who want to read the statement, I guess let's just pull this up real quick. You can see this in the link. Here's the document. And I cut and paste this part right here. But if you want to read it in English, click on this, read it in English. And you can see what the UN agreed upon. It's clearly outlined. The peacemakers, look at them. United Nations, peacemaker. Yes, you've done a wonderful job. You did this 6 years ago. Here we are 18 years later, and we're rehashing this because of the lack of ability to enforce this. You've created a vacuum in which Hezbollah has filled. Nicely done. Thank you. But just thinking out loud, just watching this, and again, all these things that are happening, there's a little prophecy about it. There's one, and it's just one line. It's the first half of a verse, and it's like, are we on the cusp of watching this happen? And I think I want to, look at that. And the kingdom will belong to the Lord. So it's like the context again is for the day of the Lord is near. And this is how you will know when the day of the Lord is near, is when you start to see these things. And, well, are we on the verge of seeing this? And, the cities of the south, I would argue right now that Israel's in charge of the cities of the south and the Negev. And that's what, in the southern part of Israel, that's what Negev means in Hebrew. It means south. And rule over the mountains. The deliverers will ascend Mount Zion to rule over the mountains of Esau. Now that's modern day Jordan. They don't possess that yet, but it is coming. And we know from the big land grant, it's going to be all the way to the Euphrates River. So Jesus comes, he'll establish that. We're not there yet. So, but something to think about. And what was that? I want to say that may be, hang on just a second. We're going to try to pull this from memory. And if I mess it up, we're going to move on. I'm going to go to Zechariah 11 off the top of my head. Just popped into my head. I think that might be right. The doomed flock. Yeah, it is. Now this is what's coming. Oh, I did write this down. My bad. This is Zechariah 11 verses 1 through 3. Prophetically speaking, fire is ultimately coming to Lebanon. Open your doors, O Lebanon, that the fire may consume your cedars. Wail, O Cypress, for the cedar has fallen. The majestic trees are ruined. Wail, O oaks of Bashan, for the dense forest has been cut down. Listen to the wailing of the shepherds, for their glory is in ruins. Listen to the roaring of the young lions, for the thickets of the Jordan are destroyed. And again, this hasn't happened yet. Modern day Jordan will be ruled eventually by Israel. The Bashan, that's the Golan Heights. All these areas that we're reading about, that's pretty much what's in the news this weekend. I wanted to scroll down because I was reading this and discussing this with my wife. 30 pieces of silver. So the context of this Zechariah prophecy in chapter 11 is the blood money for Christ. 30 pieces of silver. And then we skip to 14. Then I cut my second staff called union, breaking the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. Essentially making a prophetic declaration that there will be a northern and a southern kingdom of Israel. We know that happened. And then the Lord said to me, to Zechariah, take up once more the equipment of a foolish shepherd. Now, the shepherd, this has yet to happen. For behold, I will raise up a shepherd in the land who will neither care for the lost, nor seek the young, nor heal the broken, nor sustain the healthy. But he will devour the flesh of the choice sheep and tear off their hooves. I take this to be the Antichrist. Woe to the worthless shepherd who deserts the flock, as compared to Christ, who is the appropriate and right shepherd. May a sword strike his arm and his right eye. And I would posit, is this the mortal wound that the Antichrist receives in the book of Revelation? I think it probably is. May his arm be completely withered and his right eye utterly blinded. Just, again, thinking out loud. And then, of course, we bring it back to Jesus who was sold out. So again, when you see these things start to happen, Lebanon, fire, when you see fire start to consume your cedars, and again, cedars of Lebanon all along
Hyundai Santa
western
Fe
side of the
versus
Lebanese,
Nissan Murano. Look what
between
Santa
the
Fe
Mediterranean
has
Sea.
and what
This is the
Murano
reason
doesn't.
that it's just going to catch fire.
Hyundai Santa Fe
These
wins every
trees
time.
are going to burn, and then the Golan or the Bashan, that's down here in the south, all of this is just going to catch fire, according to the prophets. So, something to think about. Of course, it may not be now, but eventually we know what is coming. This is what says is coming. Take it, it's going to happen. So, if you guys find this interesting, please feel free to share with others at paulthepoke.com. This will be tagged under prophecy, trend update, blue line, Hezbollah, Iran, Israel, Lebanon, Litani River, UN Resolution 1701. Our friend Recep Erdogan's talking again. That's always fun. And then we have Iran and its proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis out of Yemen. So a lot going on. I get the sense we're going to be reporting more about this. And makes you wonder what's coming up for the 9th of Av, which is typically a day of tragedy for the Jewish people. And that's coming up in our month of August. I think it's about 2-3 weeks away. So, and then, of course, after that, we get into the fall feasts. And we know how the feasts have been going recently with current events. So, looks like we could be crescendoing towards something big. Obviously, something big's coming. So, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep reporting on it. Thanks for tuning in. Please feel free to share with others. Spread the word. Talk to you later. Bye.